Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today's video is going to be a little outside of my normal fare here on the Frugal Crafter, but actually, you know, it is kind of in the vein of the original purpose of this channel, which was to give you frugal options for different craft supplies. So something I'd been meaning to do for a long time was kind of put a bunch of easy to find, inexpensive brands of colored pencils to the test. And as I was going through some of my bins of art supplies, I realized I hadn't done that yet, and I really wanted to pass these colored pencils on to some kids in my community that could really use them during this time of quarantine, during the coronavirus. Nobody here is sick, and of course the art supplies can be put in a box outside for 24 hours just in case, to make sure there were no germs or anything on them. So what we're going to do is look at a bunch of colored pencils. We're going to compare them, and these are colored pencils like Crayola. You can find these down the stationery aisle of your grocery store. You can find these brands at any like Target or Walmart if you're going there for groceries. So the goal here is to show these supplies that you could find without having to make a special trip, and therefore be subject to, you know, catching the coronavirus, which is what is going on right now. It's kind of a strange thing, but I thought this would be helpful, so I thought I would do this video today. So the first thing we are going to do is look at how these colors swatch out. So this is what I have to compare. I got a set of 12 Crayola colored pencils. These were picked up for 99 cents back to school time. We have a set of 72 rose art pencils. These, I paid $4 at Martin's for the set of 72. They go anywhere between, I think they were like 14 on Amazon. So not that great of a deal. Most of these types of colored pencils are much cheaper in store than they are on Amazon. Crayola Expressions, which were sent to me by a viewer. She was curious what I thought about these. And these can be found at Target or Walmart or Amazon pretty inexpensively. And then what I thought would be the best of the best, because I always loved Prang colored pencils when I used to teach kids in my studio downtown in Bangor. They've changed. But the Prang, I would set a 50 and I paid $4.18, and I think they run around $7 for the 50 pack. So let's take a look here. First, swatched on white. And probably artwork that your kids are doing is going to be on white paper, like either white copy paper, because you can print out free coloring sheets if your kid wants a picture of a Transformer toy or Powerpuff Girls. I don't even know what the kids are watching. My kids are older, but like whatever character they like, you can search free coloring sheet in that topic and you could find one to print out that your kids can color just on copy paper. Now, really, any of these brands did well on just plain white paper. This is a scrap of watercolor paper. Watercolor paper has some texture to it, so that makes it grab more pigment and look a little bit more vivid. I also did a control group with my Prismacolors because I'm noticing that places like Target and Walmart and Sam's Club are carrying Prismacolor color pencils now. So I thought I would show that to you as well in case you want to get something for an older kid yourself, or your kids are really good about not dropping their pencils and you want to invest. I'm sorry I'm talking so fast. Oh my gosh. But I just wanted to get this info out. So I also swatched these colors out on gray because oftentimes when you are coloring, you know, your kids might have the newsprint coloring books and they're kind of a light gray, or maybe you're going to recycle and you are going to color, you're going to like have some brown grocery bags and you want to draw and color on those. In fact, a really fun, and I'm just going to share some tips and tricks as we go along on how to kind of get your kids inspired to create with colored pencils and art while they're home, if their schools are closed down like they are in most of the country. I've also been thinking that there may be a time where grocery stores will stop allowing us to bring our own reusable bags, and in that case you'll probably be getting paper bags with your groceries in them. So one really fun technique is to take the paper bag and cut it into, you know, pieces that are reasonably sized for your kids to work on, then wet it and crinkle it up, and then like dip it in some like leftover coffee, and then let it dry, like spread it out and let it dry, and it will look like faux leather. And then it's just kind of fun because then kids could do, if you're doing any Native American history projects or anything like that for their homeschooling, because, you know, we're all going to be homeschool teachers before it's done. You could use that as sort of like a tie-in to tie the art with the lessons. And I always just thought that was like magic. When I learned how to do that when I was like in 2nd grade, I thought that was magic. I'm like, wow, this paper bag is now leather. That's so cool. You know, so you could have some fun that way, or even just coloring on paper bags, because some colored pencils are on the opaque side, and they look really fantastic. In fact, I love to use colored pencils myself, and I usually use them on top of watercolors or on top of marker drawings, which your kids can totally do. They do a watercolor, or they color something with markers. They can go in and shade and highlight with the colored pencils on top and get more versatility. So really inspiring your kids to work with a limited amount of supplies and be creative with what they have is really going to do them a service, do you a service. It's going to keep them occupied and take their mind off the fact that they're stuck at home without their friends. And if your kids are anxious at all about what's going on in the world today, this will give them a little bit of calm. So color with your kids, it's so much fun. All right, so the first thing I tested was Crayola on the white paper, super, super bright. I did try taking the white pencil to see if I could lighten it at all, make pastel shades. The white's really not strong enough. As you can see on the gray, the white is not super strong, but it does stand out. I was actually really surprised at how well Crayola did with this this task here. And then the other thing I noticed with Crayola, there's a lot of pigment in there in relation to wax, and so you can layer up the colors. So if you only have a 12 pack of Crayola colored pencils, you can keep layering up your colors 4 or 5 layers actually, which is more than I could get on any of these others, and create new colors and shade and highlight. We'll get into this comparison of actually finished work with the top 3 brands that I liked out of these easy to find brands. So that's definitely a great bet. I think if you can get a larger pack, maybe you're in a Walmart or a Target, they're usually a better deal than the smaller pack, unless you're back to school time, which we're not now. So about 8 cents a crayon. A colored pencil. That's a really good deal. Now another product by Crayola is their colored pencils. I believe they're called Expressions, and they are. And I'll just show you. You've seen the classic Crayola packaging. You can't miss it. Any stationery aisle, any drugstore or grocery store will have this. Any Walmart or Target will also carry probably larger packs of this. But if you're going into a Walmart or a Target, and remember, I'm not encouraging you to make extra stops. I'm encouraging you to, this is stuff you can pick up when you're out anyway, getting groceries, cleaning supplies, that sort of thing. This is what the tins for the Expression look like. So they come in a really nice tin, which keeps them organized while they're using them, which is nice. And they look like this. The barrels maybe are a smidgen bigger, not really that noticeable, but what is noticeable is the size of the lead. The lead's a lot bigger. Crayola actually had a pretty big lead compared to some of the other brands that I looked at. The lead, actually, I think the lead's about the same size on those, because Crayola does have a pretty good sized lead. They are marked with their name on the barrel, just like the regular Crayolas are. And I like the tin just because it keeps them a little safer. You don't have to dump them out to use them. You can see everything that you have. But what I really liked about these is that they're a little bit more opaque and they're a little bit softer, so they go down with less effort. These are a little more expensive. These are like a set of 24 was like I think $12 or $13 on Amazon. I don't know what they cost in store, and I think they have sets as large as 50. The set of 24 is really lovely. I just stuck with the 12 colors that Crayola had, and that's what I tried to match, just to have apples to apples. But you can see on white paper, it's not that big of a difference, except you can see that it's getting into the nooks and crannies of the paper a little easier. The white's much more opaque, so if I added white to that bottom strip there, you could see that it did lighten it up a little bit. The colors just go down a little bit more solidly because the pencil's a little bit softer and opaque. So if you can find these, they are a nice buy. I didn't have any breakage issues with these. I actually didn't have any breakage issues with any of the student grade pencils, because these children's grade pencils, they're a harder lead. They're designed to be able to withstand a few drops, as opposed to artist grade pencils, which, the inner leads will break and it'll be kind of frustrating to deal with. So that's, the good thing is they don't break. The bad thing is that you don't get as much color when you color. So the next one I looked at was Rose Art. Now on the white paper, it looks fine. Not quite as pigmented as the Crayola, and it did feel a little streaky and scratchy as I was coloring it down here. You can definitely see that they're not as bright as the other comparable colors, but if that's what you have, they're certainly not bad. They're not bad pencils, especially if you're going to use them on white. But I did not like them as good as the other Crayola brands. The Rose Art pencils are about 10 cents per pencil from what I from what I looked up online and what I paid, although mine came from Martin's, so that's a kind of a discount store, so I don't know if that's really fair. But around 10 cents a pencil. Prang, which I thought was going to be like the best of all of these, actually was pretty streaky and weak and waxy. I was very surprised. Those run about 14 cents a pencil, and I'll just show you really quick what these two look like. Got a Rose Art pencil here. They actually feel like they feel pretty good in your hand. They look like they would perform all right, and they do perform all right. They're just not as good as either of the Crayola versions. So I just wanted to put that out there. And there's a Prang. I think the Prang barrel is just very slightly larger than the others, and the Prang has a slightly larger lead. I was really surprised at how streaky it was. But they're not super different from one another. I just wanted to put that out there. Prang, you probably would have to, Walmart might have it, Target might have it, Staples would have it if you're going in for office supplies. But I think I would still opt for Crayola if you have the choice. It just does seem to perform quite a bit better. But whatever you have at home, if you already have something, please use that, because the differences are pretty small. Now, one other brand I tried out because my daughter had a set of these that she didn't want. I thought I would just swatch them out. This is Art Advantage, and I've seen them on Amazon a lot. And I think these came from Martin's, but I think that some of the big box craft stores would have them. Not that you'd probably be going in a big box craft store right now, but I was curious. So I swatched it out, and those I thought performed worse than any of the others. And then as a control group, I swatched out my Prismacolors, and I don't have a fancy box for my Prismacolors. What I do is I just have them in my storage case. This is just, it was a Jane Davenport case that I kind of changed around to fit my pencils, and that's how I keep mine. I reach for them every day. I use them all the time. So I decided I would compare them to those because that's what I use mostly in my own work. And you can see that, yes, they are much more pigmented versus any of the other brands, but those Crayolas, man, they really do quite well. And the Crayola expression, I was surprised at how close the Crayola expression was to the Prismacolors. The Prismacolors still are softer. They lay down a little smoother. These can be found, like I mentioned, Walmart, probably Target. I've seen them at Sam's Club. So places that you might be going to do some of your, necessity shopping over the course of the quarantine and, school closures and whatnot. So I decided I would just do a little, because swatching is great and all, but the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the coloring. So I thought I would color some out and just see how they behaved. The first one I did was a classic Crayola. I was really surprised at how well they layered. And this is on a gray paper, so you can kind of see how opaque they are as well. The Crayola expressions that were in the tin there that I showed you, they were much more opaque. They're much brighter on this toned paper. So if you're going to use construction paper, the old-fashioned kids coloring books that are kind of gray toned, paper bag, that sort of thing, these are going to stand out pretty well on them. Rose Art, it's still pretty. It's very soft. It would be much brighter on white. So if you're coloring on a white paper or coloring sheet, either you bought at the store or color sheet you printed off your printer, which is really nice because then you don't waste. You print off exactly what you want and your kids can have exactly what they want. And if you are going to buy a coloring book, I would really encourage you to look for the adult coloring books because they're on nicer paper, they're on a nice bright white paper, and your colors are going to show up a lot better. And they have some really interesting, intricate designs that your older children will like. And then they also have some more larger designs, larger to color in spaces that your younger ones would like. But, that's if you want to. Obviously, you do what you want to do. You do what you know is right for your kids, because you're the expert on your kids. I'm not. You are. And then this was my control one I did with Prismacolor. You can see the Prismacolor are much more rich and vibrant on this toned paper. But I think those results are pretty too. I also wanted to mention, I already mentioned the prices on those. 10 cents a piece for Rose Art, 14 cents a piece for Prang, and about 28 cents a piece for the Art Advantage, which I don't recommend. In fact, they're a real hit or miss company, the Art Advantage. I've had some stuff that's great, but I've had a lot of stuff that's kind of just not lasted very long from them. So when in doubt, stick with Crayola. The downside of the Prismacolor Premier, I wanted to mention that if your kids tend to drop stuff or not take care of their stuff properly, or things get knocked off the table, your Prismacolor pencils will probably, the leads will break inside, and then you'll sharpen them and the leads will fall out and you'll waste your pencils. So I would only recommend getting the Prismacolor Artists or the Prismacolor Premier pencils for kids you know are going to take care of them, or not let them roll off the paper or roll off the table, mostly for older kids. I got my first set of Prismacolor pencils when I was 5, and I love them and I still use them, and there may even still be a few real short ones in my box from way back then, but like that one might be an old one in there. I don't know. It looks like the old style. But anyway, you know your kids best, you know what to invest in for their happiness, and you know what your budget will allow. So these, depending on the size set that you buy, the Prismacolor pencils come out to about 53 cents to $1.30 each if you're buying them open stock. But you're not going to find open stock Prismacolors at any convenience place. You're going to be probably finding like a set of 24 or something small like that. But they're really beautiful pencils, and if you like to color, or you think you might like to try some adult coloring yourself, color with your kids, if you have the money, treat yourself to a box of Prismacolors. You'll really appreciate them, and then you know your kids are going to love using the Crayolas, or get a set of expressions to share. There's some options there. Another thing that's kind of fun with colored pencils that you can try at home, if you have some baby oil or mineral oil, you can put some in a little, like a lid, like a spaghetti sauce jar lid or something like that, and put some Q-tips out, and you can pick up a Q-tip with the baby oil and you can blend your colors together. So that's a really fun technique for the kids to do. You do want to make sure you have quite a bit of pencil down to do that, but that's fun because then the kids can kind of paint with their pencils and they don't have to have fancy watercolor pencils. There's so much that you can do with colored pencils, and I tend to use colored pencils the most for details and highlights on top of my marker artwork or my my watercolor artwork. So there's a lot you can do with these. If you're out and about anyways getting some necessities, you can find these products for your kids to use, and I hope you encourage them to make art. I hope you make art at times like this, because it gives your brain a worry break, so you don't have to worry about anything while you're coloring. You can just enjoy the process of spending time with your kids. Do some, I call it coffee table art, where you kind of sit down, or coffee table crafts. You can sit down on the coffee table, put on a comforting movie, hopefully not the news channels, and relax with your kids and color. It's just fun. It's one of life's simple pleasures, and I hope you can find some time during these stressful times that we're in to share moments like that with your children. And that's all I have for today. I'll link this stuff up down below to Amazon, but like I said, that's usually not a better price than what you're going to get in store if you're going in anyway for your other necessities. I wanted this stuff to be really easy for you to find. And now I'm going to send this off to my friend who has a daycare so she can decimate it to the kids that need some art supplies to take home. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.